welcome back to Writing Sessions, the show where we take a bunch of random story, character, and location attributes and we write a movie right here for you to see our process. Right now we are working on the working title. We can come up with a new one at the end of this. Is Nocturnal Death Syndrome. It's about a purgatory set noir western in which a character pays for his sins by being a detective to uncover all of the sins from when he was a serial killer in his past life, and that's where we are at. We've laid out basically the 3 acts of this in the previous episode. You can go back and watch that so you're caught up to know where we're going with this episode. We have a little bit of the details to kind of iron out when it comes to the end of the film, the very end of the 3rd act. So today we're going to be talking about a couple things, but we're going to start off with the MacGuffin that is in the suitcase that our character does not open immediately upon arriving in town. So I know that you guys had an idea about what the MacGuffin is inside the bag, so let's unpack what you think should be in there, and then we can debate.
Yeah, so the one thing I just I thought of before we started recording was, I don't know, the possibility of a police record and autopsy like records inside the briefcase from the people that he killed, and
Okay.
That's something I just thought of as a possibility.
Okay, yeah.
I know we talked about the noose was a possibility.
The noose, yeah.
Or it
I
could have
think
been
the noose-
empty was one of the possibilities.
That was
too.
yeah. So overall, what I think the empty one is, I think the empty one and the noose definitely both stand out to me. Just because like the empty one like shows that like, oh, none of the, like he was never really somebody who was like, he has no past life essentially in this world. It kind of alludes to that, which gives more the idea of purgatory. Like he came here with no luggage. Like you, as a normal person, wouldn't do that. The noose obviously like would cause confusion. I think the noose would be the thing, like in a good way, it would cause confusion to the character as well as possibly the audience. And I think the thing that could do is that could lead him down to the running down the street thing. But I don't remember if we sorted out when this happens comparatively to when that happens.
No, the only thing I can think is because you said it might cause confusion with the news.
Because people wouldn't know why.
Oh, so what if like one of like the like side characters, like that were murdered, wound up hanging themselves with the noose? And then,
yeah, it could be, but then we would
like that.
The reason I think we would do the noose though is because at the end was the whole idea of like the sheriff, he meets him up with the noose and kind of like relays.
No,
that
I know,
he knows
but
what
that
to
kind
do.
of gets away from the confusion what the news possibly.
I think the
could
confusion
before.
would be a good thing. Because then it adds like a little bit of to the like what's going on here type thing, and as well as like having the noose in there rather than actual clothes. Also, because that's the empty thing. You can say that it shows that, but also just having a noose in there also shows that like, hey, there's something weird going on.
Be empty if he actually like endured all the pain of his previous life or whatever.
That's
I think,
what we were talking about before.
Like
was
then
that
it would be
be
empty because there's no.
Yeah, like he unpacked
his
all of the
while
stuff
going
already.
on this journey.
That was one of the things I remember we talked about before. Yeah, and I think that both of those
so
visuals
as he
was experiencing all these things.
As he experiences things, then the bag gets less and less heavy or less and less packed looking
And then
if it's
to
in the background.
end. Yeah, and to the end. Yeah, I think that because I think we talked about that a little bit last time.
I like how subtle that detail is.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to also pay attention quite a bit.
Right, because I think that when he's thinking about the case, going back to his room to think about it and talk with another character through it, like Maggie, who he's kind of, in a weird way, she's kind of like the Watson to his Holmes kind of thing, and just that they're partners in this case.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having it just be in the background, that it's getting lighter. We can even have people interact with it. Yeah. So as the film goes on, it's like they'll move it off a table, and every scene it gets lighter and lighter. So,
and then it keeps the importance of it by them playing with it throughout the film.
Yeah, it can be lurking in the background to a certain extent, to where people will, if they have a keen eye, they'll see it. Or it's one of those pieces that recontextualizes earlier things that happen, and then the second time around with a second watch, they would be probably more willing to look at the suitcase and see, hey, what's going on with that throughout the film. So yeah, no, that would work. I think you
Yeah.
could still have something in it that's smaller at the end, right? Because the idea is it gets less and less. So if we do want to do something like the noose or something, you could do that. Or if we want to show that he is like fully redeemed, then you could do the empty. But I think at that point, if we're going with like it's getting lesser and lesser, he would have to be fully through everything at the end, which kind of it could work because in this cycle he kind of is through everything.
Well,
but he
then
does
the last
still have
piece
to do the noose,
thing
right?
left is the noose
Exactly.
in the briefcase.
That's what I'm
why
kinda
it's so
getting
late.
at.
I mean, noose is going to be the lightest thing
And
in there.
and then yeah, that would be in there. Yeah.
Okay, so we have it so that it gets less and less packed, less and less heavy.
Yep.
And then at the end, we still have that line from the sheriff. If we want to keep it about you haven't even unpacked your bags yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah, I like that one.
I think that another important piece of that is he's starting to come to the realization himself about he is the perpetrator for these types of things.
Yeah.
So the noose would then be his decision based on everything that has come out of it.
Yep.
I mean, that is his subconscious decision on what needs to happen to him.
Yeah, on whether and it's also just like, does he accept his fate and accept what he's done in the past and accept what he needs to do next, or does he continue to push back
deny
against
it,
it
yeah.
and deny it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Also, real quickly, I don't know why I just thought of this. The guy that is the sheriff, when I picture him, I kept thinking of what I'm picturing him as. Do you remember Ghost Rider?
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
the old guy?
Yeah.
That's for whatever reason. Every time I picture that deep voice like that, and then I see the like white long hair.
Yeah.
Anyway, next thing.
That dude gets typecast in every Western.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But that's
Oh, yeah.
exactly
Every
what I
modern
see.
Western has that guy. in it.
Absolutely, you have to. But anyway,
Sam Elliott, right? That's his
I
name.
think that might
I
be.
think
Yeah.
so. I think so.
Samuel, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that was.
He's the
anyway.
one who does all the Ford commercials.
Yeah, exactly. That
Oh,
fucking
do
guy.
you think he would do the
Old
trailer
man.
for?
I
the
think
movie?
he might.
Hey.
Have
He
you ever
might
been
do
in
it.
purgatory?
Yeah.
You're back.
Well, I'll tweet at him. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. We got
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we got that in the bag. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I just had to throw that out there. Back into.
Yeah,
the,
no, that was a great recommendation.
okay.
I just don't know if he has Twitter. He might be kind of old for
I
it.
don't think so. We'll just reach out to his agent. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Ask
we'll find his
great.
agent. And I think that the unfolding that so it's not confusing
Mhm.
to people viewing it, because this film is rather allegorical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think is fair. I mean,
Yeah.
there's physical stuff happening, but also there's a fair amount of metaphorical
Yeah, like
and
analyzing stuff you need to do.
imagery going on.
Yeah.
So I think that keeping with this, how we've chosen to go with the suitcase becoming finding the noose in it is well within keeping in our tone
For sure.
and story that we've built up here.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's actually great. I think that rounding out the idea for that would come through in the dialogue and how that scene would be directed or written.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think that the thing that would not connect for a lot of people is really the connective tissue between the carnage in the town, him freaking out and yelling at the sheriff, and then having him come to this realization of what he is and opening a bag and finding a noose in it. And I'm trying to think of how, without holding people's hands,
Yeah.
how can we how can we bridge that narrative gap in getting to a point where it's clear that like, oh, he committed all these murders in a past life, or
Yeah.
is that left up more to the understanding by analysis that it was purgatory? Like how much do we give them in figuring out what his sins are?
I think that if we give them anything, we give them not too much, right? I'm not opposed to giving them something for sure, but like overall, I think it can be something as simple as like adding like a line to the front of the what was the line that we had written for the sheriff in that? You haven't even packed your bags, right? So we can have like a line right before the you haven't even packed your bags, or right after, even kind of like alluding to like he knows what he's done, or like, you know, something along those lines. Or like it can even be something like you know, none of this would have happened if you haven't showed up to this town, or something like that, which can even like push it in two ways that you can interpret that, of like
Sure.
he is the murderer in one sense literally, or you can take it in the sense that like sense literally that he's like insane and we just haven't seen it, we've seen like this delusion play out in his head, or you can take it in the sense that we're kind of going forward and where like it's this allegorical more thing where he's had this past where he's done terrible things, and this is kind of him experiencing and going through that trauma himself. So I think that if we do something, it should be light. But yeah.
So I've got a bit of an idea here. Is we had it written down on one of these cards that when the sheriff comes back, he's yelling at him of like, you left me in this town with this terrible monster who did all of these things. And I think that as he's going on to this monologue about all the things that he's experienced and all the things that he's lost, that's when realization begins to creep into the tone of his voice.
Okay, I like that.
And as he is saying things, he starts to slow down and think before he says something. And as he says it, then it would cut to a previous line or a previous scene earlier on in the movie of people dropping these breadcrumbs of things that he's realizing apply to him.
Okay, I like that, yeah.
I think that having the nail in the coffin on that be something about the ghost story that Abe tells at the beginning is like the final thing that makes him realize what it is. That he is, for some reason, being punished for something that he has done by all of these things happening. Because I think that if we have it be the punishment of past deeds, and people analyze it and realize this is purgatory, then that's the connective tissue between, that he did these things previously.
For sure.
We don't necessarily need to have the sheriff be like, oh, by the way, you did these things, remember? Do you think we have to go too much farther in figuring out the MacGuffin? I mean, I think
I think we got it.
From here, I'm thinking that we just round out the back half of the third act. Not even half. I mean, like the last 5 minutes of the film. So we had that idea a couple episodes ago where there's this drone or crane shot thing that comes back out of the town, and you realize that people are bustling around the town again. And I think to get to that point, we need the little moment in there where he uses the noose. And it can be shown through another kind of noir shadows thing of you see the shadow fall or something like that. After he dies is when you get that crane or drone shot to show that the town is bustling again, and the little detail of the ferryman pulling up again. And at that point, if people are analyzing it, people who know it's purgatory would know that, okay, so this is going to be him again, having to go through this again.
And if you don't get it, then you're probably not going to come to that conclusion anyway, because obviously it's going to be based on some more niche knowledge than anything.
Are we going to do the interview at the beginning, where he basically, and the whole entire town is kind of developing based off of the answers?
Oh yeah, where he's in the sheriff's office, and they
that
just
could
talk.
be a little bit of the clue then, of that it's him again, is that we could have it be that this is his first go around in purgatory. So now the town knows how to cater it to him.
Oh, so this time he doesn't
for
have
all
to
the
have...
for the next 999 or however many things. So because we had that detail in here about his book, the book in the whorehouse was his name in different penmanships. But I think if we roll with the fact that this is his first time entering purgatory, and purgatory is forming to him for his first time here, then we have probably more to work with for that.
And then also it's just an empty book for that, and he's just putting his name for the first time. For sure. I think that works out well.
She would open this really old looking book to the very first page.
It's honestly, it could have
it's
even
all
the dusty
and everything.
Pulls it out. But I think that's perfect. I think that for the hanging aspect, there's two parts. One, the one initial way I was thinking about it was kind of you go from him being inside the office or whatever, the sheriff's office, and then you get kind of this shot outside kind of looking in, and you kind of see a shadow that drops or something like that, and then that's when we get the crane pulling up type thing, and it can even be one continuous shot. That's what I had initially, but I kind of like that insinuation of the noir type lighting with that. I can even if we want to be graphic with it, we could even do a shot kind of at the middle of the chair, kind of right between the chair and where his feet would be.
I have that. Yeah.
And it's looking kind of upwards, and then it has that kind of not black and white, but that those shadows of the typical noir type thing. That would be kind of cool. And then the chair kicks out from under him and he falls, and then maybe
does
that's
he
when we
kick
get that
out
back.
he would?
I don't know if he
And
kicks out
is he
or what.
reluctant to do it? Like that's my
For
like,
sure. I think
mean,
that's
I was trying to think of a way that we can fit the sheriff into that moment, because the sheriff in this is essentially like Gabriel, we said.
Yes,
Right? Like
yeah.
like a guardian angel, not guardian
Type
angel, but like
Yeah, like-
archangel.
Yeah.
I think that he gets up, like we can do it gallows or we can just do it in the sheriff's office. Because I don't love the idea of it being at an actual gallows. I think that
Yeah, I don't think the
it
gallows.
makes it too much of a literal Western town.
Yeah.
I think that there can be a moment where he's like standing on the chair, he's ready to kick it out, and he's trying to like amp himself up for it. Like he's obviously afraid of what's going to
Yeah,
come.
of course. Yeah.
And the sheriff can walk up and just kind of grip his hand,
Yeah.
Oh, I
and
like
he's going
that,
to
yeah.
hold, and he's going to hold onto his hand until it's done. So it can
That's
be this
cool.
really kind of long, drawn out moment
I like that.
where you see their hands are in the forefront of the frame.
Yeah.
The shadow is cast on this part of the wall back here.
Yeah.
And he kicks it out, and the sheriff holds his hand the entire time until the shadow stops moving, and then the sheriff releases his hand, and that's when we would find some way to get out of the house to then do the crane shot.
Okay, and then for this, we only see shadows. Like we're only
I
at
think
that
so.
point. I like that.
So
I like that.
the way
Yeah,
I
cast on the wall behind him.
the
Yeah.
way I picture to get like even out of the house, the crane shot
Mhm.
essentially is if you have it lined up where it's the sheriff and then it's our main character, and then basically it kind of zooms out to the window and then kind of just
Yeah,
moves up
that's what
like
I
that.
was describing. I think the harder part though is if we're gonna do a pullout, we would see the body and the sheriff then. Unless we can get like an angle where it pulls out and doesn't do that, but that would be kind of hard
Yeah.
to do. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I could think of other than that is cutting outside and then going up. But like when you have just shadows, obviously to not get the body in the frame would be kind of hard.
No,
yeah, I mean that'll come down to very much of the directing thing. The
For sure.
important thing is that, like, if I had to put shot selection to that, like on the day of, we realize we don't have a shot transition from this shot of the hand with the shadow in the back to being outside.
Mhm.
I think that what I would do is I would keep it on that shot of the shadow in the hand, and then once the sheriff lets go of the hand,
Yeah.
the camera would push past their hands, following the slat shadows
Okay.
coming from the window.
Okay.
Follow them kind of along the wall and then to the window.
Okay.
And
I
you
what
see that the time of day has changed,
Okay.
and that's when it can cut to an outside shot of the sheriff looking out of the window, and that's
Got
when it
it.
pulls up.
So like push into the shadows and then a curve around to the window.
Yeah,
and- okay,
following
got it.
kind of the natural lines of the noir lighting
Gotcha.
Okay.
along
Gotcha.
the wall to
That
the
would work.
window,
That
then
would
cut
work
to
well, I
outside the window, sheriff is there.
Okay. Yeah. No, that would work well.
yeah,
I think.
I like that.
Cool.
All right, cool.
And I'm even thinking, see, this is why you write a movie and then go back to change things in the beginning.
Yeah.
You don't have to get it all right at from beginning
Yeah.
to end the first time. I'm thinking that the shot that we the penultimate shot before we do the crane shot, and it's the shot of the sheriff walking up to the window and looking out. We start the movie with that shot of when the ferryman pulls up, and we show the sheriff looking at him through the window as he
Oh, that'd be
arrives
cool.
for the
Oh,
first
that'd
time.
be
that'd
cool.
So
really
then there's
cool.
that
So-
immediate callback to
Yeah, I
there's
like
a little
that.
bit of
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
sense
kind of
really
where
works.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
ending right there. That's cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and then it literally is a cycle. That's pretty dope. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then it
that
can be a
works, right?
cycle without like Groundhog Daying it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep.
For sure. Okay, no, that's and then that would make sense because that's where he would come from initially. Is his sheriff's office, see him pull up and go out onto the ground, and then head out there. So yeah, no, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. Okay, so I mean, I think we rounded out the back end of the film there.
Yeah, I mean that's how it ends, and then we get Mariah Carey to sing a pop song. over the
Oh
credits.
no! Then the film dies.
No, hey, you. Our film lives on forever.
Now with Mariah Carey.
Lives on
though.
forever, Jason. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
People love pop music,
Get Blackpink to do a song then.
Now that's based.
but
That's
Mariah
fucking
Carey
real.
does the credits.
Blackpink does.
Yeah,
the
we'll get
credits.
Blackpink. It's okay. We'll call him. We'll call
Okay.
him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Featuring Lil Nas X.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
Hey,
Now that
yeah,
is
well that makes
dab
sense.
me up,
Go
Tim.
back to
Dab
oh,
me up.
I hate that I can see this ending to a somber version of Old
God.
Town Road.
That
would
would
be
be
lit.
dope.
Out of my mind immediately.
No, that'd be
so
dope.
fire. That'd be so fire.
Like,
We get an
like
acoustic.
Sweet
I can do
Dreams
that.
and Sucker Punch. That like the Sweet Dreams song from Sucker Punch.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's what
I
I,
don't know-
like.
I don't know the
Lil
Sucker
Nas
Punch
X like
version.
song. I hear version of Old
What's
Town
it-
Road.
It's like
Okay, I'll have to
the
listen to it.
sinister, like minor chord version of a
Yeah.
pop
Oh,
song.
really?
Yeah,
And
it's
like,
really
All right,
I
you're
will
gonna make
write
that.
I will write. I will do that.
Make it.
I will do that.
Do it.
I will make it. That sounds awesome.
At this point, we next on the agenda here is making sure that we hit all the attributes of story, character, and location. So obviously, Western noir. I think that Western town, we have a lot of the Western character archetypes,
Absolutely.
while also blending them with noir visual styles and character archetypes, kind of blending them together.
Okay.
So I think that we nailed the genres pretty well.
Yeah, I think so.
The ending is a bit dour, which
It's great.
many westerns kind of have that, but
Yeah.
then a lot of noirs often have open-ended endings where there's this unfulfillment of a character not getting what they wanted, in some cases like the girl or the life experience that they wanted. Did we remember to put this movie in purgatory? I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good. Okay, we put it in purgatory.
I think
we
we
got
did.
that part.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright, what else
People
we got
let us
on the
know down in
list?
the comments.
What
You
else we
idiots,
got
it's
on
not in
the list?
purgatory.
What do you yeah.
Yeah,
what it is.
but what else did we have on the note? I know we had our character was like insecure, which that's
Insecure.
already got
He's
that.
insecure, especially at the end. He's insecure. That's where
Very
it shows
true.
the most.
Yep.
So the
Absolutely.
insecurity was with himself and also with accepting the responsibility of his actions.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
why he had that initial bond with Maggie, because
Yep.
they both shared the insecurity.
Absolutely.
We had prone to sleep paralysis. That
Now-
wasn't as big of a thing as the original draft,
Yeah.
but we still fit it in,
Yeah, we
in a
worked it
weird
in
way.
there. Yeah, we worked it in.
Right.
Nighttime
We
and
fit
everything.
it in. Yeah, it wasn't the classic sense of the word. The other attribute we have here is homeless.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
did kind of
I
do
mean,
it,
it's-
not really. But like,
I mean, he doesn't have a home.
yeah,
Right.
I
I
would
mean,
s-
purgatory is kind of the place in between your, in essence, eternal home.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would say that there's like a
I think so.
metaphorical aspect to that.
Yeah.
As well as like he is coming from a place that he like literally like isn't from anywhere, so he
Yeah.
doesn't know where to come from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then I'm forgetting what the last one was. In debt.
We can say he's morally in debt, but or morally
Yeah, that
bankrupt.
actually works.
He's
I think
morally
that's fine.
bankrupt.
Yeah,
But,
and
like,
that doesn't have to be money.
For sure, he's morally bankrupt, and he's bankrupt in like a relationship way.
We've got all of our attributes. We've got the genres, the location, and the character.
I really like the idea of this becoming a film someday.
Yeah, hopefully.
I do too. There's some scenes in this that I would love to be able to direct. Let's pick 3 scenes
Oh.
and having them be each separate tones so we get a little range and
Okay.
Uh,
Well, I think the end scene would be a good one to do, right?
yeah, sheriff and
Okay.
Conversation
Very-
between Abe and
Oh yeah, the story with the
yeah.
story there. Okay.
oh, ghost story.
Yeah, the ghost story scene with Abe. What else we got? We got one more.
something with Maggie, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Cause then we have like a love type scene. We have a.
Oh, the
like-
conversation after Abe
Do we
dies, I
wanna
guess.
do the yeah? I think it was the one after Abe dies where she opens up about the fact that he was like a father figure to her.
Okay, yeah.
And that's
And then
where they
so they're
relate.
bonding love like type scene through like this like conversation and this terror that they both experience at the same time.
Let's start with the ghost story scene then. And I will. I'll put 10 minutes on a clock, so we're actually like
On time.
we gotta hit the minute mark. Sidebar: I have a timer that's been running for 12,000.
Yo, what the?
That's
is wrong
fucking
with you?
amazing.
What the?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I
My
would,
pride and joy.
yeah. Do a
How many
TikTok
minutes did
video
you
on
just
that.
say? Did that say 12,000?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
12,290 something. Yeah.
That's 204
Alright.
hours. That's 8.5 days. Why have you been leaving your timer running for 8.5 days?
12,000 hours.
Oh, you said 12,000 hours?
Yeah, 12,000
I thought you said
hours.
12,000
That's not 8
minutes.
days.
I thought you said
that's not-
12,000
no.
minutes.
12,000 divided
No.
by 24.
Hold on, I know, yeah, 512 days. You've been running it for
That's
1.5
impressive.
years.
That's impressive.
Yeah. All right. Ghost story scene. There we go.
Let's do it.
Nice.
All right, we started. We have 10 minutes. All right. First thing in this is like, what is the point? What are we going to gain from this? What are the characters getting at through this?
The point, well, I mean, the story's point isn't it to just set up like this potential monster in this town that essentially is going to be killing all these people?
Yeah, anyway, so I think from what I recall, like the
Metaphorically, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we want to allude to Harry
Well,
being
so
that
the
monster
reason-
some way, or that, like a small breadcrumb.
Well, also like the whole thing too was it was supposed to kind of give an interesting backstory to the town to give it an eerie feeling, but also to allude to the ripping out of his tongue that would be occurring like after this. So I think overall the main point of this is to give the town like a little bit of a more eerie feeling / backstory, as well as give us some more information / foreshadowing about what will happen to Abe, as well as what will happen throughout the story to our main character.
Okay, so now we have the point. So now from Abe's perspective, what is his kind of reasoning or motive behind telling this?
It's his place in the town in this whole purgatory, right? Like this is what he has. He's, I guess. What did we say?
I mean,
is
we
he
can
like the
say-
father figure,
Yeah, so
right?
he is
Like
the father
Abe.
figure
Yeah,
that
he's
gives
the
wisdom.
wise. Yeah. Wisdom,
So
yeah.
what was it you said? What does Abe gain from this?
So from Abe's perspective,
Yeah.
what is his kind of motive? What is he trying to get across?
Well, so, yeah,
to
I think
Harry?
that we can say like that's like his job or whatever. I think that though that's kind of like it makes it kind of less meaningful to just kind of leave it at that. So I would say that probably more like he's gaining like a bonding experience with this newcomer into town, right? And so there is a utility in having a social reputation that's positive, and then a like social connection with the various people, especially in a small town, right?
So a possibility could be that basically, yes, this is Abe's job, but after talking, having a conversation, he kind of considers him like a friend almost, and that's why when Harry ditches Abe and doesn't hang out with them, it hurt. Like,
well, I think for this we can even just leave off like the whole like the fact that it's his job, because I think we can kind of just like understand that on.
well,
the
yeah,
back
we
end
wouldn't.
as, like,
No,
as
it's
a
gonna
thing.
be on the back.
Yeah,
no matter
for
what,
sure. But I
yeah.
get what you're saying. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'll be like this is him like kind of bonding and making friends with him, and like this is probably like a genuine like story, at least in the lore of this town, that somewhat exists. And so it's something as well, though, of course, that like foreshadows all these things. But so for Abe's perspective, it's a bonding experience, and this is like a story that maybe he was like in his lore he was told by his father or something, even whatever it might be. And so he's passing on this story to this newcomer into town. And also they were drinking, right? So when you're drinking, like he's gonna be more willing to tell these types of stories, have these types of conversations.
Right. It could be a, what's the word I'm looking for? Cautionary tale.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it foreshadowing?
Yeah, and it's foreshadowing everything.
Yes.
Everything that'll go down with Abe, and then everything else in the town is being foreshadowed.
Okay, so in this, I don't know how much dialogue we want Harry to reply with.
Yeah.
But Harry in this scene, how is he taking it, and what is he trying to get out of the scene himself?
So he is drunk a bit.
Because he is
right?
new in town.
He is
Yeah.
new.
Yes, he would be drunk, but he is new in town, so...
I think though that like our character would probably be like less willing to like give information, especially because probably our character wouldn't have the greatest of memory at this point, because he does have like his previous life scrubbed a bit. So probably I would say that Harry is somewhat like reserved while also being like
yeah, you're
open.
right. That just makes okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like
Because his memory, he doesn't have memory. Like,
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yep.
Right. So, and then I think that also he's gonna be like cautionary of like everybody in town, because he's a newcomer. This is a small town. When you come into like a new small
Maybe he's
community,
talking about the women or something like
yeah,
that.
he could
like
make comments like that
yeah.
potentially. And so like I think that like basically too though is like he doesn't say too much. I think though that like as he starts to loosen up with the alcohol, and as Abe is more and more friendly with him, maybe he starts to like reply a little bit. I think that though he is like fully willing and open to listen by the time that Abe gets to the story though, and he just kind of like takes it as it goes, and then maybe at the end of that he replies with something of like how it's scary, or he could even like make a joke at that point, because at this point he feels more friendly with him or something, and be like, oh, that sounds like bullshit or something.
So in terms of putting it down on a card of his reaction or,
Oh, yeah,
or
reserved.
camaraderie with him.
Yeah, so reserved, yet open at first, and then as time goes, he becomes more relaxed and open with it.
Does the story scare him much?
Well, because the story about
Yeah.
because this story's got to be terrifying, right? Like,
Yeah.
somebody's tongue gets ripped out, right? Or there's
Yeah.
something alluded
And then
to
it goes
that.
to Abe, and he's like,
Right.
that's just a story, though.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think that would be the good, actually. Yeah, is that like Harry is like somewhat scared. Like, I think he's not horrified, but I think he is like scared, and maybe he tries to like brush it off. And then, Abe is just like totally like, no, it's just it's just another thing. Like, this is just what
Okay.
this town talks about. Nice.
So we've got about 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's lay out some of the details of the ghost story itself. So we know that it has to end with someone losing their ability to speak. Do we want to literally say ripped out their own tongue, or do we want to have it be something that can be perceived as, oh, when he said that he could no longer talk, that could be related to tearing out of the tongue?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think it would be fun also to do something like a giant rat or something, because I know we talked about like a Wendigo or like monster type thing, but like maybe
Yes.
even like a huge rat like is like terrorizing the town or something like that, and then like maybe the way they kill the rat is like something related to its mouth or something along those lines, like they stab something through its like throat or something like that. That's always a possibility.
So
Anything else?
are you thinking that in the story, because the story metaphorically does kind of give people an idea of where the story is going,
Yeah.
do you want to have the character of Abe be represented by something in the story,
Oh, that's
and then
true.
something represents, well, because something would have to represent what's going on here.
Yeah,
So
that's
the
true.
aggressor would be essentially Harry. So I was thinking of there being some kind of creature or ghostly figure who tries to silence people because it, like, then
Ooh, that could be interesting.
something chilling like noise hurts it.
That
Like,
could be interesting.
it just reminds it of the people it used to have in its own life, kind of lore behind this ghost that then tries to silence everyone around it because laughter and stuff makes it feel sad that it can't.
Yeah,
have those
or
things.
like
Okay.
having certain experiences or like hearing certain things reminds it of its own past that like is the thing that
Mhm.
destroys it the most. That would be interesting. I think that we could even do something where like so for that, would that be terrorizing? So we're gonna do it as like terrorizing this town. So if we're gonna do that, or was it terrorizing a different town? What are we gonna do?
For the sake of the story, it's this town.
Okay, so for that, what would we do for representations? Would we just go straight out as saying this is like in character represent, like Abe is in the story, he puts himself in the story, or do we do like other type characters? Like, what are we doing there? Yeah.
I understand what you mean. For the sake of it, let's just have it not be the town it takes place in. It's just a general Western ghost story.
Okay, just a general Western ghost story. Okay.
1 minute.
Okay.
What if it had piercing red eyes, and that's Harry would see that at night, and that kind of led him to like the bodies that he would
that
find?
can be one of the things. Like in the shadows we saw in the alley. Remember, like there was a figure that walked away. That could be like the
Yeah,
figure
he
with
thinks
red
it's
eyes,
that,
just
yeah.
like the thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. And then I think that like I like the whole silencing factor that Tim said.
I
I
like
don't
that
know
too.
what we can do for the representations. The only thing, because I like there being like the whole rat thing. Obviously, was meant to show that like Abe is like giving information that he's not supposed to be. So I don't know what we could do for that, generally speaking. But yeah.
Representation, like in terms of
Abe, like as being like that is Abe's character. Like I don't know. The only thing I could think of representing him would be a rat, but that would be obviously not work out very well.
oh,
for
what in the story? What would Abe be?
Yeah, what would Abe's character be
10
represented
seconds.
by?
Yep. Okay.
Anyway.
Throw out all
Abe's
the
character
ideas.
would
5
be
seconds.
a child. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Move on, Tim.
Okay, so the monster in it is a ghost that silences people because it reminds it of its past life.
Yes.
Is what we've narrowed it down to.
Yes.
We've got a good point to we know what the point of the scene is. We know how it relates to what happens later in the story. We have Abe's character down. We have Harry's reaction and character down as well. Cool. We have the first scene.
Yay!
Woohoo!
Huzzah!
All right.
Huzzah!
Now we put it into a machine and it writes dialogue for us,
Fuck
right?
yeah.
Correct.
It's called
Yeah.
Tim. That's the machine.
Yeah. It's the same way that I edit all the videos. I take all the footage and I right click it and say edit and it
Yep.
just spits out a video.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
All right, so the next scene that we have on deck is Maggie and Harry sitting in the bar in the aftermath of Abe's death.
Okay. They're sitting in
All
the
right,
bar
we've
still?
started.
Wait, they're sitting in the bar still?
They're in the bar room.
Okay.
Yeah, because they just
Yep.
found
Abe in the back or
Right.
something?
Abe is
Yeah.
dead at this point.
And Abe's in the back? I thought we had Abe in like one of the booths in the bar.
Now are
Yes.
okay? So is the body already taken care of? Is the body still there waiting?
Yeah,
then?
where? Yeah, okay.
Having the body still be there could be interesting because they don't want to move the body.
Well, yeah, they don't want to move it.
They're waiting for the sheriff, I guess.
Yeah, they're waiting for the sheriff.
And you
Right.
never
She
so
ran
the
around
body
and
is
couldn't
still
find
there,
Yep, it never shows
and they're
up.
having this conversation about Abe while Abe is there as
Yeah.
a posthumous witness to their conversation.
Got it. That's a weird way to put that, but
That's what it is, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, are we starting?
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
dude, we 9
Well,
minutes.
restart the shit, Jim. Anyway,
Alright.
so
Oh my gosh.
essentially,
that's part of building the scene is knowing
Yeah,
what the
it's-
thing is.
oh my god.
Okay.
Well, so essentially for this one, I'm thinking that this was supposed to be a bonding thing overall to a certain extent, mostly due to the trauma and like that they're currently experiencing. I think that like we could have probably Maggie would refer to her past in some way with Abe, right? Like talking about how like he was just there or something like that, like how she had known him for so long and how this like horrible thing, she can't believe that it's happening. Typical thing. I think for the more interesting question is how Harry would react, probably, right? Because Harry just met him. This is all
Right.
like the first trauma that's being induced within this town. I think that Harry would be in shock at this point. Like, I think that
Right.
for the most part, he would be not cold in the sense that he doesn't care,
Yeah.
but cold, and maybe part of it is that he does have a piece of him that doesn't care, right? Because he was a serial killer, but he doesn't understand why that piece is there, and the rest of him, because he's like a kind of a new person in this world, is like somewhat like traumatized and like and fully like shell shocked. And so I think that generally speaking, he should be responding to Maggie in a way that is like somewhat like open, because at this point like he's like, this is a bonding type little bit of an experience that's going
Is
on here.
Abe gonna be a lot older? Is Abe gonna be older than Maggie? Right? Like that's what. Because
Yeah,
in my head,
yeah.
this is what
He's
I'm
more of a
thinking
father
that
figure to her as well.
Yeah.
Abe, like maybe she tells a story of when she was a little girl or whatever, and then Abe looked after her or whatever, and Abe could almost in a sense represent Harry as him as a father in a way, and like the good things that he actually did kind of as a father, and you kind of see
Well,
that when he
this
plays
would
with
be
kids,
one of the
but-
first punishments of
the first
Harry
pun-
being smacked with what his victims would have felt. So if we're going to keep that point of view in mind, is this would be like a serial killer hearing from a victim's daughter how their murder affected them. Is kind of the perspective of the scene there.
I think that at this point they're probably like sitting down waiting, like at this point just waiting for something to happen, like either the sheriff to come or some other person to come.
That's
to
what
get
I'm
help.
thinking. The
Because
sheriff,
she
yeah,
yeah,
waiting
because
for the
she
sheriff.
runs around initially is what we said, and she can't find the sheriff. So at this point they're just waiting for the sheriff, and I think like we might have even discussed something like the kids are running around looking for the sheriff, or they come with the sheriff or something. So I think that for this, what it could be is that I think that like what you said, I don't necessarily think we should go into like a full story, but I think that it should be a thing where she talks about like how Abe was a father figure to her. I think that maybe
Right.
it could literally be like he even like found her and helped like raise her,
Yeah,
and
simple
protect
thing.
her.
Like
Yeah,
I get it.
exactly. Yeah, and I think that like especially because like he's doing the bar downstairs while we kind of discuss this warehouse is kind of on the top floor while like the
Does the
bar is
sheriff ever
upstairs.
show up?
I think
do we
talked about
have
he
him?
does.
Not till the end.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait, he
so
doesn't show up again till the
then
end?
they're
Okay.
waiting on it, and I mean perhaps maybe like they're waiting on the sheriff to show up because Abe's dead. That it could another scene in their heads are like, well, there's this killer. Like, what about the kids? Like, are they about?
Yeah, well, I think that. So what happens right after this scene?
This scene is interrupted by the Bell murder
Okay,
with the bell around
Yeah.
the neck.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
yep,
yeah.
Okay.
I forgot. And that.
Yeah.
Oh
So-
yeah, that's right. And
Yep.
then they go back.
Right. So
okay.
so it's at this point in the story that this thing just starts going.
Yeah, and then there's
yep, okay.
and then who is
100
dead by
miles
the
per
chef?
hour.
Yeah,
Yep,
and who
okay.
is dead by the bell? Is it like a chef or something? I can't recall.
No, it's one of the girls.
Yeah.
One of the girls. That's right. Okay.
Let's see what the starting point of this conversation is. She comes
Yeah.
back in from having said that she cannot find the sheriff,
Yes.
and this is when Harry, because we've decided that he takes on a detective-like role, he is not a literal detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at this point he should be like looking over the body, like trying to see anything that he can over it. And then at that point she comes in, she's distraught.
Yeah.
And so she goes and she like is like he's like telling her to sit down. He's trying to get her to calm down a little bit. This is where they start to have this like bonding type moment that goes on where he like kind of
like she just breaks down crying. And he has to sit there and try to console
Yeah, because she
her,
sees
like,
the body again.
Yeah,
right? And so that would send her into a full frenzy.
Yeah, basically, and they just cover the body up with like a sheet.
Yeah,
or
maybe he
something
covers
like
the body up at that point with something in order to help her calm down a bit.
Yeah.
So he sits down with
But
her.
he can have that cold demeanor while she's crying.
Well, yeah,
He's
because like
not really
I feel like he
reacting.
doesn't care.
Because we
like,
think as an audience he's shocked, right? But in reality, it could be partially he's shocked and partially he's a serial killer. So there's a piece of him that knows that it doesn't
personality-wise, it's
matter.
that he's not phased by it.
Yes, exactly. And
In the sense that he's a sociopath, is that he doesn't have that empathy.
and in that moment too, you want like him being like the more like grounded one when she starts to become like distraught, because you don't want two people, and that's why. And people might think, okay, he's like that because he has to be like that in this moment.
that's what, yeah. And people,
Yeah.
but then also, if people are looking at it through the other lens, it'll be like the first clue that he's the killer. The only thing is obviously like you'll have seen him upstairs with the girl, so you'll be like, he can't be. But it's all from his perspective, so it's all he's like an untrustworthy narrator.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think that then he kind of like covers the body. He like she's crying hysterically, sits down with her or something. And then kind of like he's trying to console her while he's like totally
It's
kind of,
like one of the tables like in the bar or whatever.
Yeah,
and, like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then he has this like colder demeanor while she's like breaking down in tears. I think probably a little bit after she's like towards like the middle, I think maybe he even does like a little switch to turn on this like little bit of like compassion that he might have for her, because I think that like
almost
one thing
like
about
a charm of like
Exactly.
what's that one dude that
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy, almost like a charm of Ted
Yeah, like
Bundy,
because
right?
serial killers
Like
are
that
usually
moment,
seen
yeah.
as being like these kind of like really charming or like people that can turn on and off various emotions or things. So I think that like he can be like cold, and then in the middle of it he turns on this like more charming, compassionate type thing that is like weird to the audience because you see that moment where it switches. And so then this gives
So
her the
what's his
feeling that
motive for that then?
So the motive for
is
that
the motive
is
for that to get
her to calm
her
down more
affection?
than anything. I think I think it can be partially for the affection, but I think more than anything is he sees this as a moment where he can be inspecting the body and doing something to figure out what happened.
Well,
to
he
Abe,
already
and she is a distraction to him. Right, and so he sees her as like I need her to calm down, and I need to do whatever I can to get her to calm down.
Yeah.
And so he turns on this thing, and that's his first emotional manipulation.
And he
that
doesn't
comes
even
out
realize
too,
he can do it until that moment.
Exactly, and then
Like,
that's the
and then
first manipulation.
he's like,
that we
well,
see
I
him
didn't
do.
even know why I even said that. Like honestly, like or
Yeah.
like he.
He
this
didn't look
weird
like that,
tra-
maybe, or he can.
And that actually kind of alludes him to finally understanding that he's the murderer the entire time. Right?
And that can be one
Like,
of the clues that leads
at
him
the
to
end,
it.
yeah, like small little breadcrumbs throughout, basically.
Yeah, and so that's one of the first like hints towards it. And so then of course like
I think that with that emotional manipulation, I think that because he's in this position of power, essentially, because the sheriff is now gone, the power structure is kind of shaken up.
Yeah.
That's when, because of her insecurity and all that stuff, she latches on to the greatest position of power for the protection.
Yeah.
And that's where the romance can come out of.
Okay.
Romance.
I like
But that's where that noir-like romance can come out of, where there's this dependency on him because he is now the great, the
who else
top
is
dog
gonna-
of the
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
power structure.
Nobody else in town is going to be able to.
Yeah, especially because
or
Abe is
her,
one of the
or
only
the
main
girls,
people
right? And
besides the sheriff.
then that would be another concern of hers, like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we hear the bell.
Yeah.
And then we go and we have that horrific, amazing experience. That's one of the best scenes.
So we have 25 seconds. The line where we have the transition into the kitchen because they hear it is, I want to make sure we get this written out. They hear the bell ringing in the background and it gets louder and louder.
Yeah.
And louder. And that's when she says something about how messed up it is that she's still hungry despite the thing out in front of her, right?
Yeah. All right, 10 minutes.
We're over. All right, cool.
Good
and
shit.
I wrote out a little thing on the back here that shows where like different motivations pick up and where they go to.
Cool.
So we'll probably round that out at a later time. Okay, now the heavy scene. And And start. All right, we have Sheriff and we have Harry at the very end. This is heightened emotions. Harry at this point, this part is taking place inside of the sheriff's office. So we need basically a transition spot to get from outside and what spills into the sheriff's office. Since the sheriff is trying to walk away from the situation, and he's constantly following him, so we keep up with that
we have
theme
the
of
thing
people
still
eating him.
where like we still have? I do think so. We do
Is
on
the
that.
sheriff a pop at the end of the town?
Yeah.
Like,
So basically, remember
maybe he
he's
has the
running.
red eyes
he's
on the
running-
rack. Or something.
No, we don't want to do
Yeah.
that. 'Cause then that's supposed to be Harry.
Yeah.
But when he runs through the town, at the end of it, we see the sheriff. Now, I can't recall. We said the sheriff has the suitcase, correct?
No, I think
No.
it's in his Harry's room.
Okay, so
It's just
Harry
in
has
Harry's
the
room.
noose at this point.
Harry would have retrieved it when he went up to find Maggie and the kids.
Okay, and so did he open it yet?
No.
Okay.
At this point in the script, he
So
is
he's
not.
he's running down with his suitcase.
So I think that what happened is he was searching through the room, ransacks his own room, and the bag is thrown out the window. So it
Okay.
lands in the street.
Okay,
I'm
and
thinking.
so then so it lands on the street next to the sheriff. How do we
Out-
get? How do we get the
outside-
bag
outside
down
of the
there?
motel?
Okay,
but how do we get the bag down there?
So yeah, so basically, so why is he ransacking the place? What is he searching for?
Well, that's when he was looking for them. He was just going crazy.
Yeah, he was just
Okay.
searching for.
Trashing.
anything.
So then he basically, the suitcase gets tossed out the window. It
Yeah, when he
opens
goes
up, but
running.
you don't have
Right.
Harry. It's facing away from Harry, so he doesn't know it's in it yet. And then, the sheriff pops up at the end.
that's-
So how do we get the
difficult.
bag down there? That's the question.
Right.
So I think it can be there's two things. Like I think the easiest thing would be either the sheriff has the bag because he makes the line of he says the bag line, and then the other option is like Harry goes and he opens the bag because something
Maybe,
is calling to
okay.
him about it, and then he like finds
Yeah.
the noose, and that's when he goes running down.
Yeah.
Because it startles him. So and and then also he's like, why he like asks, why did you leave this in my bag?
I don't know why
Like,
I
all
just
that
have in my head like because we can stick with the suitcase, but almost like Harry is getting compensated for this, and then the sheriff basically tosses him a bag. He's like, your payment, and then it's a noose inside the bag or something. Like
Yeah.
But
I
mean,
like the
because I'm trying to
suitcase
figure out
going
how you do the
smaller over
loot.
time.
Yeah, I do
I
like
think
it.
you should
I just gotta
have it to where like you
figure out
open
how
the
we do
suitcase
it. Yeah.
in the room, and then
Okay, so I think
he
that
carries it down.
Harry follows the sheriff into the sheriff's office, yelling at him about the experience that he's had. And when he's inside, sheriff can have a line, something along the lines of, like, do you actually care? Harry can shoot back with, like, what do you mean, do I actually care? And that's when the sheriff can throw the bag at him, like, hits him in the chest with it, and be like, you haven't even unpacked your bags yet.
That's what I was picturing initially when we said that you haven't unpacked your bags yet, because I thought that we had already discussed.
But
this
he should
before,
have the
but-
bag because it's implied that the sheriff, like, returns to the town at some point. And it's like, how long has he been back? And that throws you through another loop right before the moment where you're thrown through the loop of the more allegorical ending of the film.
Okay, so you're saying the sheriff doesn't have is that what you just said? The sheriff has the bag.
Yes, the sheriff has the bag
cool.
in his possession. Yes.
Okay,
So
cool.
we don't necessarily need to go through the convoluted
Yeah.
thing of he throws it out a window and then it somehow makes its way over to the
that
thing.
sounds all good. So in that case, yeah,
Right.
I think that. So that's what I initially thought. I thought we talked about that like the week before last. It's been 2 weeks since we did this, so it's been
Yeah.
Anyway, but so I think that works. And then overall, what happens is like he runs down and he does find the sheriff outside of the thing. And he, at this point, he's like blaming everything on the sheriff because pretty much like the sheriff is like the last one in town that has anything to do with him. Also, of course, we've seen everybody dying as everybody's dead on the street as he's like running down. And so I think that like the sheriff is standing there, and the sheriff kind of like he starts screaming at the sheriff from he stops maybe a yard away or so, and then he starts screaming at the sheriff. And he starts blaming him for everything, running it all down. And the sheriff either just gives him like a sad sigh or something like that, or maybe like a little smirk or something like that. And that's when he turns around and he goes into the office. And maybe even our character just stops dead and just kind of follows him into the office. And then because it's something about he knows there's something about the sheriff where going to the office where he's like, I'm being called to do this and go forward, kind of in that leading way that you've kind of discussed.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. And so I think he goes in there. He says something in a more calm voice now because there's something like calming about the sheriff in general, where he says something along the lines of like, "Are you even listening to me?" or something like that. More still frantic, but a little bit more not angry. And then this is when the sheriff can start his line of questioning of like, "Do you even care?" And then he says, "What do you mean? Do you even care?" And then the sheriff throws in the bag, and then I'd like to hear whatever you guys have to say for after that.
Real quick, the point of this scene, the culmination of this all, is repentance in this moment, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I have it written down.
Okay.
So Harry, blaming it on the sheriff, hates he was left to handle such a terrible, monstrous person on his own. At that point, not realizing that it's him. I like the idea of his emotions being heightened the most when he's standing, like, ankle deep in all the bodies around him.
Yeah.
And I like that the entrance into essentially the Archangel's quarters is the moment where he comes down a bit.
Yeah.
Let's throw out a couple ideas for lines of moments where the moment immediately after opening the suitcase and finding the noose in there.
Okay.
And at this point, do we want to stick with the idea that I had about when he's yelling in the street about all this stuff and he's having these momentary flashbacks to moments that in hindsight build up to him being the bad guy? Do we want
I still like that.
keep that?
No, I like that. Yeah, I'm with that.
I say we keep with that, and then at
What's
this point at this point he's already somewhat realized, right, in that case, that he is
So he
the
doesn't
killer.
even. Would you have him even ask like, "What's this?" Like, because if he in that moment he realized that he already knows what it is, then right?
Yeah, not
Or-
really, right? Because he doesn't know the
I would
purpose
like
of
him
it.
to know what it is immediately. I don't think
Okay.
he needs anyone to spell it out for him. I think it's going to be this moment where, our dream casting for this role, I'm thinking we know exactly what we're talking about because it's the same guy we talked about for the caving in script.
Yeah, of course.
I give him his Oscar moment, man. Like, have him
course.
hang on to this thing and just reckon with, like, the fragility of his life and what a terrible person he's been, and just have this moment where he knows what the noose means. And through analysis and what the sheriff says, then it grants us a little bit more of a window into his thoughts about what he's experiencing in that moment.
Okay. Well, I think it could be at that point then it could be like an angry, sad, kind of like crying type thing where he's going through like a mixture of emotions, and he says something along the lines of like, "I can't," or something like that to the sheriff. Like, showing that he is both like saddened by what he's like realized, as well as angry either with himself or with the sheriff, even for putting him, like, quote unquote, putting him through this, as
Right.
well as like the fear of being like, I don't want to die, right? Because he doesn't know. I don't think he knows though that he's in purgatory, right?
No, yeah. Well, in that moment, he wouldn't. He wouldn't
In
know
that
he's in
moment,
purgatory.
no, but he'd
he
know that
just
he needs to
knows
kill
what's to
would he
be
know?
done.
Yeah.
I don't think he would know. I think he would know that, like, I think he would get the understanding of, like, this is what must be done. And I think that maybe he would even understand that there's something supernatural going on here because of clearly everything that's happened is quite, like,
Right.
supernatural. But I think that, like, overall, piecing it exactly together is not quite what he does. But I think he has, like, a good idea of, I don't think he knows that he's going to come back, right? Like, I don't think he knows this is going to be a repetitive thing. So I
Right.
think that, like, he knows what he must do in that moment, but he doesn't know exactly why. And so that's also why there's that fear, because if he knew why, then he'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go to heaven or whatever the right. But
Right.
so
He
yeah.
doesn't know. Right. He knows this is the right thing to do, but doesn't know the consequences of the actions for
exactly.
carrying through with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And he may even think that it's just simply death, because obviously you hang yourself, that's it. But yeah, that's my theory for it.
Do we want to give the sheriff a line that gives a little bit of a push toward the implication of supernatural, ethereal, purgatory type of setting?
That he had,
Because I know
like, he has
way
to realize
back we
he's
had
dead.
that line about the one down, but that was kind of an odd line.
But this is
It wasn't
weird
on the
thing. I
nose,
don't
but it
think
was
that
kind of
this
like,
would
what
be-
does that even mean?
I don't think this
Yeah.
will quite work, but you could do something where, like, when you do the push in pass by the wall or whatever for the shadows, you could have like a wanted sign or something for him at this point, and it'll say like reward wanted, wanted dead or something like that, reward, and then that could imply that there is a reward for him in some way or another.
Well, we are over the 10 minutes on that, but I think
Okay.
that, I mean, it's a tough scene.
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
it is.
I mean,
It's a
it is
complicated
there. It's not just
You don't
writing
wanna
one
have it the
scene;
bad
it's
ending.
tying up an entire film in one scene. That was the last thing on our agenda today.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Did it.
So,
Winning.
and it was a tough one. A lot of brain power went into this one.
All the MacGuffin was the hardest part.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean, we figured that one out pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah,
there
I
were some
think we figured
details
out
to
in
iron
about
out
5
in it,
minutes.
but I think we got it. Like and subscribe, I guess. I don't know what else to say. We haven't had to say that in a while. We usually
Yeah.
just fade out.
Yeah, so you guys, subscribe to the Smoking Sessions channel as well as the CrazyRocky channel. We post amazing content regularly where Tim posts every now and again. Luckily, we've gotten him to actually post weekly with this series. It's amazing. Round of applause for Jim. That's wild. It's been fire so far doing this this series. I can't wait to see what the dialogue scenes turn out to be like, and I can't wait to do next season. Like this has been fire, and I did not expect our first one to go so well. I thought we might fuck it up, but I think we actually came up with a really good story.
Well,
So.
even at the
Yeah.
beginning, Tim had said, you had said that basically this is going to be a real difficult one with the purgatory and everything, but we figured out a way.
Yeah, we
We're
literally
happy.
we weaved
We
it
weaved
together
our way through all the stuff.
beautifully.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a
Weaved it.
top tier $1,000 tapestry that was just weaved together by an artisan person. It's amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to not CinemaJacket. He's a piece of shit,
CinemaJacket.
and nobody likes him. And more
Grab
importantly,
yourself a hoodie.
you can find all of the links and stuff in the description
Yeah,
below.
get
Do
yourself a
not
hoodie.
get yourself a hoodie.
Get your hat,
Don't do
a
it.
hat,
No,
shirt,
stop branding everything you do. Okay,
cup,
more importantly,
mug.
guys, thank you for watching Random
Sweater,
Sessions, and let us know what
blanket.
you guys think down in the comments below, as well as just anything that you'd like to see us write about. Like if you have topic ideas, if you have certain things you want us to throw into the hat, the bucket, let us know, and we will do so possibly in the next season. All right, anything else, Jim?
No, subscribe.
Subscribe.